All right, welcome to the channel for the first time viewers. Welcome back from my existing subscribers. This is a video that I've gotten a lot of requests for. So today we're going to dive through all my settings. I'm going to do a quick high-level overview of what I do with Windows and stuff like that. I'm just a normal user, so nothing crazy. For those of you that have been on the channel for a while, you know, I made this type of video in the past, so there's nothing flooring or crazy to be seen here. One thing you can do, which I don't do anymore, is use process Lasso to kind of make sure that all of the games are running on the correct cores. So if you have a game, let's say for instance Warzone, that somehow is bouncing off of the Vcache CCD, what you need to do is just make sure that your Gamebar and everything's up to date here. So just go to your Microsoft Store, make sure all that stuff is updated. So that's on the Ryzen CPUs, but on the Intel, you can also just process Lasso, which makes the game have to run on those specific cores. So first things first, go to your task manager. So for those of you that don't know how to get there quick, it's Control-Shift-Escape on your keyboard. Hit this little gear icon if you're on Windows 11. You can select startup if you're not, and just make sure anything you don't need. So if you have like drivers for your headphones, you want to make sure you leave those on. But for me, I have everything set to off, right? So disabled, disabled, disabled. It just makes sure that nothing's running in the background. A lot of times when you first get a game from a launcher, the launcher will try to stay open or start up with Windows. So I don't let it do that. Let's see what else here. Throw up my MSI Afterburner. So this is what I'm using for my overclock. It's nothing crazy, but it works. So this is on the Oris Master 4080, right? So on some of these cars, like my 4090 Founders Edition, I have this at 1499. So you just have to find the sweet spot by, looking up videos how to overclock your GPU, because that's not really what this is all about. But I do have an overclock on my GPU there. Probably gives me like 10 to 15 frames. And since my CPU is fast enough to push my GPU to the max, anything that you can get is going to be essentially a performance improvement, because that's your bottleneck. Just like if your CPU is the bottleneck, any overclock that you do, any RAM tuning that you do, typically is going to get you more headway. Now we're going to go to the game files. So you go to your documents folder, find Call of Duty, players, and then you go to your COD, or pretty much your S.1.0 COD.20 or COD24 TXT. There's a couple settings here. So here you can see I was looking up interpolation. Let me make this full screen. Interpolation is the AMD version of frame generation. So in a lot of videos, folks were asking me if that was on or off. This is just, there's nothing crazy that I've done here. So really it's heaps and just messing with that. So you can do Control F, type in HEAPS, and that kind of controls the resizable bar. So here you have resizable bar. I have it set to off. I've tried true, I've tried false, and you can play around and see which one is better for you overall. So for me, it's false. That's where I get the most consistent performance. True sometimes will get me good highs, but I always see that on my 4090 and on my 4080 card, I typically will run into like 150 or 180 lows, right? It'll just like the average FPS will jump down to like 150, 180. All right. At the very bottom of the screen, so again, that's if you just type in heaps. At the very bottom, one of the most important settings right here is thread count for handling the job queue. So mine is set to 7. You can test out whatever CPU you have. So if you have a 7950X 3D, if you have a 7800X 3D, 9800X 3D, I use 7 on all of those because there's 8 Vcache cores. So I typically do one less, right? One less than your actual core count is what I found to be the best. But ideally, what you want to test out is 6 through 8, and even 6 through 12 on some chips, and just see which one's better for you, right? Just test it out on your own. You can use the in-game benchmark and use those numbers, or you can just try to find something consistent that you can consistently drop into. Like I think one of those would be like a 24/7 playlist, or a specific spot in Warzone if you're trying to get the best performance for that. Some of these different numbers or values will increase the power draw. Some of them will, which will in turn increase the temperature on the CPU. Some will be really, really good for the lows, but then your highs go a little bit lower. So you have to find the perfect balance. So that's the render worker count. So when I type in, check your render worker count, this is what I'm talking about. All right. So another thing you could do is, for those of you that don't know, you can clean install your drivers. So if something's just wrong with your drivers, just you can't really put a finger on it, that's going to be where you can, install DDU. Holding shift when you hit the start menu and then go through reset. So start, and then you go through power and reset, but you have to hold shift the whole time. That will let you come back into advanced options where you can then essentially boot up in safe mode. Last thing here before I launch the game, and we'll go over some of the in-game settings, is going to be the, what was I going to tell you? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's jump in the game. All right. Still feeling like trash. Been sick the last couple days, so it's been wild. I'm gonna try to mute the game sound as soon as it comes up. All right. And I'll throw the timestamps in this too. So for those of you looking for like keybinds and stuff like that, I actually have to set my mount keybind again. But I was a really big Rainbow Six Siege player, so we'll go to Call of Duty multiplayer. All right, let's see here. So you go to your settings, and what you can do here. First thing, a lot of folks will kind of hit me up in the comment section talking about their FPS is stuck. It's usually because it's on custom, and right here, whatever this is set to, that's gonna be the highest FPS that you get, right? So if you hit apply, you see that it's right there in the menu now, showing 120, but again, go to 285. So now this is how this gets impacted up here. Switching this to unlimited will allow it to go past that threshold, that limit. So this right here is one of the most important pieces here. Two other things I'll talk about. I usually use reflex off, right? Now, if you have the type of CPU where maybe it's not as powerful and the GPU is being kind of, your bottleneck is your CPU, you'll want to turn this on plus boost. So these are your different options here. And then, of course, just on is going to try to decrease the system latency. I do believe that it caps your GPU utilization to about 97%. It's not something I've checked recently, but in the past it did. So my settings I use for the game are super simple. Click on minimum and then change this back up to 100%, and that's why it will show custom. So you see how it's minimum, and then just type in 100 and nothing changed. All right, fidelity CAS is my upscaling / sharpening. Frame gen off, VRAM target 60, variable rate shading set to on. This you have to manually toggle, and then you have to restart the game, right? So that doesn't kick on. I left persistent effects. It's like the burns and stuff like that, and pretty much everything else is left as it was. For view, I got 120. I know a lot of y'all always talk about my motion blur. I'm gonna keep it. It's just how I like the game. Me and somebody else joked about it. We talked about how in the we talked about how when we went through, he's like, hey, the game is really fuzzy when you're using like motion blur, blah 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 blah. I was like, hey, I use the weapon motion blur, the world motion blur is off. I was like, it's good for me. The only time it's not better is when I'm trying to catch a thumbnail. So that's pretty much the only time there. All right, so here, that's the in-game settings. Let's go through my keybinds, and then that'll kind of round us out. I don't know why I clicked on that. So 10.64 is my sensitivity. I want to say that came from Aim Labs. I think it was Aim Labs, where you go through and you match your sensitivity to other games that you play. The other thing you could do too is you could start on your mouse pad over to the furthest edge of it, and whatever you're comfortable for a full 360, and in every game you do the same exact thing. So if you're playing CS or if you're playing Siege, that you just tweak the sensitivity until you reach that same exact spot on your mouse pad where you make a full 360, and that is one way, a rudimentary way of getting to about the same level of sensitivity. So here, this is all some of the keybinds I have. You know, I took this off. This was on your mouse. This was kind of like your chain stance and all that stuff, but I turned that off. What else? I got to do the bind, not the bind. The where's T? There it is. So that's how I normally mount. What else did I change? Lethals I put on the mouse instead of that change. But I do want to show you some of the big things that I definitely changed. So under sprint assist, you've probably seen a million of these videos. Since I'm on mouse keyboard, I like to just be able to tap real quick one time. And so I do like the sprint delay on controller. I have this down to 0 because you can lightly move and it will let you walk still. But mouse and keyboard, just unless you press the walk key, you can't walk. So this gives me a little bit of time so that I don't like start immediately moving and then jump off a ledge or something. 400 is too long. It's like almost a second. I believe this is in milliseconds. So it's like pretty much almost half a second before you start sprinting. And essentially, if you're trying to get out of a situation, it makes it that much harder. A couple more things here. Okay. No, it's not here. It's going to be on the combat. So for those of you that are, you know, just keep not losing gunfights, but every time you try to reload, you got to like stop moving because you have that sprint assist on. You go to advanced combat settings. So go to combat, and this works on controller and the and mouse and keyboard. And you want to turn this off. Like sprint cancels reload. Typically I would have it on because I was in all the older games. I would manually press sprint, right? I had tap sprint set to just one tap. So if you tap sprint, if you're already sprinting, you tap it one more time, it would just do a tack sprint. But now, you know, I'm glad this Omni movement exists. I think you'll have a lot less broken controllers for the left sticks because they're going to see so much action from being pushed in. But anyways, this here allows you to kind of go through and stop that from happening where your sprint cancels your reload. And that's really all my binds, all my settings for the game. I don't think I'm forgetting anything else, but if I am, just, you know, throw it in there. I can always write a comment update, but hopefully this helps some of y'all out. So just make sure, recap, close out the game. Actually, I'll jump in the game real quick while we recap Rooski, get throttled real quick. But yeah, biggest things, make sure that you don't have anything running in the background for your Windows. If you do OC your CPU, you know, it is what it is. Just make sure you set your render worker count in the game files. That's super important. Typically, I want to say on Intel, the default is like 15. So it's actually really, really high. And some people, like I think like Freethy, I haven't watched his video. Really, honestly, I don't really care. I'm sure there's like a lot of useful information, probably more useful than this even. But I just feel like, you know, my performance is fine. And I don't really see the need to go looking elsewhere, if that makes sense. But yeah. There's different things you could try as far as I'm losing my mind right now, man. Still sick. As far as just making sure your performance is as good as it can be. So the render worker count, test that out. Make sure you try heaps on and off. VRS, variable rate shading, make sure that's on. If you want to try frame gen, go for it. That's fine. I feel like for me, frame gen is fine. You know, I don't really have an issue with frame gen being on. Last big thing. This is what I was going to tell y'all before I launched the game. If you don't already have the game, do not buy it on Steam. It's broken again. So all the updates as they did, they kind of reverted it, and it's kind of back to how it was. So unfortunately, you know, that just is what it is. Now, the other thing too is if you are on, let's say for instance, you have Steam and you are kind of like me, then what I did is I went to BattleNet for BR, and then I did TDM on Steam, right? So hopefully this video helps you all out, and I will cut out from here. We're going to do a full gameplay. Just throw it on there. See what we can get with no audio. Got one kill. That guy's bad. That guy's bad. He's just camping. Common spot there. Ah, they got me. All right, y'all. Y'all be easy. I lost my train of thought like 3 times. But we made it through. All right, if y'all got questions, throw them in the comment section. And like I said, I'll try to get to them. I'll put the other videos too that I did. Like, you know, I have a video on the channel of how to use DDU and how to fresh install your drivers. Again, that's if you feel like something's wrong. Like in the past, I've had, you know, just I remember it was like I couldn't, no matter what I did, I couldn't get past like 2500 megahertz. It was a weird, like something went wrong with the driver installation. So, but like blatant stuff like that, you know, I wouldn't even mess around. I would just go ahead and just fresh install the drivers and keep it moving, you know, rather than trying to troubleshoot and figure out and blah blah blah. All right, with that, catch y'all on the flip. Easy.